Jake Paul. To some of you, he's that bleach-haired kid from the Disney Channel. To others, he's the annoying rich kid from YouTube, and to the boxing world, that social media punk who's lighting up the world of boxing. No matter what you think of Jake Paul, there's no doubt that the guy has made a mark everywhere he goes. Unlike many fighters, Paul didn't start his career young. While the YouTube star was involved with sports, Paul first came into the public eye thanks to his Vine videos. By the time Vine was discontinued, Paul had over 5 million followers and he was a star by this point. Paul would then make the transition over to television by becoming a regular on Disney Channel's show Biz Aardvark. However, Paul's YouTube antics would bite him in the butt, with the controversial star getting fired over a year later due to his antics in a Los Angeles neighborhood. That didn't stop Paul from being in the spotlight as his YouTube career remained strong. He and his brother Logan actually dipped their toes into the rap world, and their song, It's Everyday Bro, became a smash hit. Granted, I'm pretty sure many people were scratching their heads over the London is my city line, or just about any other lyric in the entire song, but he and Team 10 were a hot commodity in the music world. Fast forward to the Manchester Arena on August 25th, 2018, and Jake Paul is fighting fellow YouTuber Deji. Well, Paul's bout against Deji was nothing more than a sideshow act for the YouTuber at first, but then he fought, and won. But it wasn't just the winning that sparked Paul to venture back into sports. It was the whole adrenaline rush of preparing for the bout and getting into the ring. As you can imagine, Paul's life drastically changed once he decided to put on the gloves. The YouTube star even admitted to himself that he wasn't exactly eating the best foods before deciding to square off against Deji. So Paul trained his butt off and got his diet right. This wasn't something completely new for him, as Paul was a competitive wrestler and he did train to be a Navy SEAL. Paul has been training with BJ Flores since he got serious about boxing, and like many fighters, his workout regime consists of boxing, of course, weight training, core, and cardio training. From cardio, the crux of his training was mainly long runs, sprint runs, and jump rope. When it came to weight training, exercises such as squats, dumbbell thrusters, and bench presses aided in bulking up the soon-to-be boxing star. Paul did release a video of himself being held aloft on his training partner's feet in sort of an aerial yogic stretch that left fans confused. For his core workouts, leg raises, crunches, ball throws, scissor kicks, and medicine crunches offered to help shape Paul's stamina and abdominals. And for boxing? Well, he boxed. Okay, maybe a little more went into his training sessions. Paul focused on his footwork, sparring, and combos and moves such as shadow punching. He does this 5 days a week. Of course, a great workout could be ruined by what you eat, and as mentioned previously, Paul didn't make the best choices when it came to food. However, he cleaned up his diet, which now consists of oatmeal and fruits for breakfast, a protein shake for lunch, salmon and vegetables for lunch, and chicken and salad for dinner. When he's really serious about cutting, he'll just have ice cubes. Leading up to his match against former UFC fighter Ben Askren, Paul exhibited serious self-discipline by having only one piece of plain grilled chicken and a glass of water at a restaurant, but he promised to return after the fight and try out their deviled eggs and banana split to celebrate. When Paul cuts loose with his diet, his go-to is Italian, especially pasta. Based on his first fight, the training regime was a success as he made fellow YouTuber Deji look like the rookie that he is. The next fight was against former NBA player Nate Robinson, and this one was a bit more personal on both sides. It all started when the former NBA star called out Paul after his first professional boxing match. Robinson stated that he wanted all the smoke, and by July, the fight was made official. Both men wanted to prove that they were serious about their boxing career, thus this matchup felt different for Paul. Nate was just coming off his 11-year stint as a former NBA guard, so he was beginning his transition to boxing with the Jake Paul fight. A YouTube star and rapper versus a former NBA player, who would come out on top? Well, on November 28th, 2020, it took 1 minute and 24 seconds of round 2 to answer that question, as Paul lit Robinson up and got the KO victory. Following that, Paul fought another YouTuber, Anison Gibb, and got the KO win in round 1. Jake's confidence was at an all-time high at this point. The 24-year-old kid was sitting at a professional record of 3-0, plus people were paying to watch his fights. Granted, a lot of folks simply wanted to see Paul get knocked out, but it's still good for business. Paul started targeting actual fighters this time around. Well, sort of. Paul started targeting MMA guys like former UFC lightweight and featherweight champion Conor McGregor. Now granted, McGregor has a history in boxing. In fact, the Irishman started his training with boxing. However, McGregor is a huge name in both sports and mainstream media. Thus, the likely reason he targeted the huge UFC star was for a big payday. However, McGregor never really paid attention to Paul, but former one welterweight champion Ben Askren sure did. After some back-and-forth trash talk between Askren and Paul, the matchup was made official in late December. Now, Askren was an accomplished MMA fighter who was undefeated for 10 years. You heard me, 10 freaking years. However, Askren's strength was wrestling, not stand-up and striking. Still, this was a man who's beaten top MMA fighters and has a strong chin, despite his stand-up game being weak. Askren didn't get to 20-0 for no reason. And yeah, I know about his UFC career, but honestly, the less we talk about that, the better. No offense to Ben Askren. Paul had to be prepared for Askren's tough chin, thus the 24-year-old upped his boxing drills and his training regime. His cardio and weightlifting remained the same as in previous fights. Paul also got the help of the baddest man on the planet, Jorge Masvidal. You see, the BMF champion and Askren have history. To make a long story short, Masvidal knocked Askren clean out in 5 seconds at UFC 239. That's currently the fastest UFC knockout in history. While Paul can't use a flying knee in boxing, the UFC star helped train Paul with a modified fist version. So the big day came March 28, 2021. Despite Askren never stepping into a boxing ring, many expected this to be Paul's toughest fight yet, but it wasn't. Askren was dropped at 1 minute and 24 seconds in round 1. More importantly, Dana White lost $1 million betting on the former UFC star. Whether you hate or love Jake Paul, there's no doubt he's shaking up the boxing world due to his antics. At the moment, the controversial star is preparing for his upcoming bout against UFC veteran Tyron Woodley. However, based on his recent interaction with Floyd Mayweather, could the undefeated fighters make a clash sometime this year? We'll find out soon.